Day 38, Psalm 38. It's nearly 4 weeks since our schools and many of our churches closed their doors. It's 2 weeks have passed since strict social distancing came into force, and we're following the news every day of new cases, now more than 5,000, and the deaths which stand today at 171. 171 people. Each of those has a name, is loved and missed by their grieving families, is part of a local community of friends and colleagues. These lives matter, and their loss touches us all. And yet, even these numbers are small when seen against the global statistics. Many of us are really feeling the effects of our isolation at this time, and many on the front line are really feeling overwhelmed by the challenge. Against this backdrop, we read today's Psalm, Psalm 38, which is entitled A Psalm of David, asking God to remember him. This is a hard psalm to read. At first sight, it doesn't seem to contain much that is encouraging or comforting. There aren't even any words of praise or thanksgiving in it. David feels that God is angry with him and punishing him. He says, "Because of your anger, my whole body is sick. I'm bent over and racked in pain. All day long I walk around filled with grief. A raging fever burns within me and my health is broken. I'm exhausted and completely crushed. My groans come from an anguished heart." And in a verse that seems strangely relevant today, he cries out, "My loved ones and friends stay away, fearing my disease. Even my own family stands at a distance." Where is the comfort in this, you may well ask? Well, firstly, in the utter honesty of this great king and deeply flawed man of God. He doesn't offer platitudes during a crisis or vain promises in times of uncertainty. He tells it like it is. One of the great and enduring qualities of the book of Psalms is the way it so accurately reflects real human experience. It's a mirror that helps us to see ourselves, and a window through which we can glimpse God and the hope that only He can give. It's a book of words that can help us to express how we feel and how we see the world. Secondly, there's comfort in the vulnerability, even the helplessness that David admits to. In verse 13, he says, "I am like the deaf who cannot hear, like the mute who cannot speak." Yet whatever the cause of his trouble, David is also able to reflect on his own spiritual condition, and he becomes aware of his own troubled conscience. He says, "I confess my iniquity. I am troubled by my sin." In our own vulnerability in the face of this pandemic, we do well to reflect on our own character, our priorities and values, on our relationship with God and with those around us. God offers forgiveness for our sin, restoration of our human relationships, and new life in Jesus Christ, His Son. Thirdly, there is hope that David clings to in the midst of his crisis. He feels overwhelmed that he cannot see a way through, and yet he never loses his trust in God. In verse 15 he says, "Lord, I wait for you. You will answer, Lord my God." Sometimes in a time of crisis, answers simply aren't available. Yet hope need never die. In Psalm 6, David describes the very same problems, but is able to say at the end, "The Lord has heard my cry for mercy." In this psalm today, he doesn't seem to be quite there yet, unable to look back on God's saving grace, but able to look forward and anticipate God's grace. And so he ends this psalm with these words of hope. "Do not forsake me, O Lord. O my God, be not far from me. Make haste to help me, O Lord, my salvation." Let this be our prayer today, and every day until the Lord comes again. Make haste to help me, O Lord, my salvation. God bless you.